This is reposted.
Garry Tan is the founder and managing partner of Initialized Capital, and for the last 2 years has been on the Forbes Midas list top 100 global VC. I came across Garry on his YouTube channel, which I highly recommend checking out. You can go to youtube.com/Garry Tan, Garry. And he gives insight into his career and teaches you the lessons he learned the hard way. To get us going, Garry, I want to give us a quote that you said, and it's not innovation until it gets built. I mean, that seems so obvious, but in the world that you're in, like, how do you see that every day?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people play startup house, which is very dangerous. And I work with a lot of very, very early founders, and I talk with them through my YouTube channel, and I've opened up my Instagram DMs to sort of get to know my customer, which is, what I truly believe is, sort of all the people who have engineering, design, product, business skills who want to start businesses. And I think that quote is really tailor made to sort of help people avoid the number one landmine, which is, working hard to look like a startup instead of actually building not just a business, but a business that can grow very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just purely coming from how do I help the most number of people not waste years of their lives and materially make their lives worse, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the part people don't talk about with startups, is that you take this huge risk. It's a gamble. You're gambling your own opportunity cost, but it's also real money. And if people spend years on a pipe dream that never comes together, that I feel that I viscerally feel the pain when I talk to people like that. And I don't want people to be in that situation. I want people to succeed.
Yeah. I used to work in construction in the Bay Area, and we were building an office for a startup, and their CEO told me, "We got the same alcohol supplier as Google, so we've made it." And I was like, well, and I don't think they're around anymore. So that could be playing house.
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy to focus on the wrong things.
For a number of years, you were connected with the Y Combinator, and that's why I think you met up with the guys from Doordash. And I read this quote you said about Doordash: fans are earned or lost at the margin. It's not the average performance that counts. So are you saying that you need people that are either really excited about the product or not excited about the product, and the people in the middle, they're just always going to be there?
Yeah. Well, I think it's Alex Tausig who said it, and then I just pulled the quote from his great teardown. He's awesome GP, at Lightspeed. But I do agree with it. I like to signal boost things that I super agree with, and that's one of them. When it comes to DoorDash, I actually think it's almost entirely just people who love you. That's it. You know, back at Y Combinator, working with Paul Buchheit, who created Gmail, there's a kernel of that story in DoorDash and a lot of Y Combinator companies, which is get 1,000 people who absolutely love you, and don't try to scale or get more customers until you have that level of love. And that's the only way you can sort of rise above. And we saw that when Gmail got launched, right? People loved it, and then they taught each other that it was great, and the demand sort of spiraled and boomed from there. And that's at the core of many, many consumer startups, is actually not, hate is okay. Like, it's probably okay to be hated, as long as some people who, really, really care about you, really, really love you. But I wouldn't go out of my way to be hated. I think hated doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. I think you're really interesting because you're an engineer, you worked in startup, which is basically pretty black and white. And then I came across through your YouTube channel, which is a lot more subjective and entertainment based. And your channel has grown over the last year. I think you're around 45,000 subscribers right now. But I
Yeah,
liked in one of
blessed.
your videos, you talked about how something you did was you put in your email signature new videos every week, and you just started telling people. It's like kind of you put the toothpaste out of the tube, but like how did that help you drive, like, versus before you did that?
Yeah. I mean, I could feel myself in the grind, not getting the results I wanted, but I also knew, I was very deep in the dip. Seth Godin has a great book about this, or there are many ways to call it, but you know, um, and I knew I needed some sort of external sort of motivation. And for me, I don't like to say things that I don't actually do. So um, that was one way to get my friends and the people I work with and anyone I come into contact with to sort of hold me to account. And that was a real turning point moment because I literally just was like, this isn't really doing what I need it to do. Like, it's so
Right.
much work and no one's really paying attention. But I'm really glad I pushed through, and it was sort of dramatic. Like, I hit 10,000 subscribers, and it was like I hit a if statement in the algorithm. And it's really showed me to what degree software really intermediates our lives today.
Hmm.
And we're all hackers now. There are all these systems, and we got to hack them. And if we hack them, like, good things happen. But we're all software engineers now. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that software idea, you were employee number 10 at Palantir. You're a complete data guy. The mission statement almost for Palantir is software for data-driven decisions. So my question to you is, you run a VC, you hear lots of pitches. Do you ever turn off the data and use the force and just go with your gut and not the data?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, early stage is almost entirely gut, honestly. I mean, you have to, we hire associates, for instance. We have two new associates that initialized who have been doing amazing work. And we need to do the background checks, right? We want to understand what are the market dynamics. We want to, do our research before we get involved in a company. But the actual moment of deciding to invest or not is actually mostly gut still, right? At the earliest, you don't have data. And then it's not just gut, though. I think, you know, me and the team that I built it initialized, we've all worked at places. We've been, C-level executives. We've built, consumer experiences or enterprise businesses or all kinds of things, really. And I think that the standard we use is, would we go work there? And that's actually kind of what we're doing. When we fund a company, yes, it's money, but it's not my money. It's my limited partner's money. But I am devoting my time, and I'm saying, come hell or high water, whatever happens to this business, uh, I'm going to answer my cell phone on a, Friday night at 9 p.m. when all I need to do is, like, put my kids to bed. But if there's something happening with that company, founder needs to talk to me, I'm going to pick up. And, you know, especially now that my kids are, they're like, 1 and 4. I'm like, that's really valuable time,
Yeah.
right? So I have to be really careful. That's a high bar. I'm like, I need to know that I will be excited to talk to that person at that moment, and that's what, like, going to work for our companies means to me.
You told a story about Peter Thiel offering you money to come work, and you in one of your videos, and said it's a $200 million mistake. So a lot of people might have that adversity and say, "Shit, I'm done." I know someone that was the runner-up to David Schwimmer and Friends, and it was a network
Near
test,
miss.
and he missed, and he quit acting because being a series regular on Friends is basically you never have to work again in your life.
Totally.
So obviously you went the different path where you kept going, but like, how do you ignore that type of, I mean, there's so many things in startups that, like, oh, had I done this, it could have gone a different way. But like, how did you take that miss and keep going and
Yeah, I mean,
continue
that's
to
a great question. I mean, part of it is like, once that anything like that happens, you're in the right company, and then it's just odds.
work? Hmm.
And then the key thing there is, like, just stick. You just got to stick it, right? Like,
Right.
I did a video that I recommend people watch about tournaments, and I realize now, like, it's not like I won all the tournaments. I've been rejected. I didn't get a Series A from Andreessen. I didn't get a Series A from Benchmark. I made videos about all of those experiences, and I'm fine. Like, the thing is, like, none of these rejections define me at all. And then a part of it is, like, just be glad we're we have incredible privilege to even be in, to have won the genetic lottery, to live where we are, to have the skills we have, the connections we have.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I don't know, when I think about that story you said, about David, the second runner up to the Friends thing, it's like, and I don't know this person, but, you know, I, I guess like what are we here for, and what do we want to be doing? And I've heard a lot of actors talk about this, and I definitely believe this about founders. Is like really a lot of the founders that really make it, they're like not extrinsically motivated, and I believe that's true for actors too, which is like we do this for free. Like there's and then it's sort of lucky and amazing that people pay us to do this at all, right? And then it turns out, for computers, it's sort of like winning the lottery, right? Like if you love computers and you would do it for free, like, well, it turns out that society really needs you to work on that stuff because that's where all of society is headed now. And so I think there's that. It's like, what are we here for? Why are we doing this? And um, it's funny now. I really understand why a lot of the path for a lot of people in Silicon Valley is like, come here, try to make money, make the money, get very sad. Really? I mean, yeah, that's sort of what happens, right? And it's like, oh, they said that when I make money, I'll be whole, and then it's like I don't feel whole at all, right?
Right.
And then that's where people sort of go on their wellness, fasting, meditation, Burning Man, like all of that stuff. Maybe some psilocybin, therapy sessions and things like that. But I think that when I meet people on the other side of that, like they're actually asking like the right question at that point, which is like, why are we here, and what's the point of all of this, and what do I want to be doing? And um, honestly, that's often what I'm really looking for when I'm sitting down with founders, is like, who are the people who are the artists and the creators who couldn't care less about like making a single dime. I mean, we live in a capitalist society, and like capitalism is about alignment. So don't make that the end in and of itself. Like, how about we make the end actually creating a thing for other people? And it's a dance, as Alan Watts said, right?
Yeah.
It's
You missed cryogenic freezing in your excesses there. Because I mean, when you think of like Silicon Valley, you think someone has this like brilliant idea and a brilliant pitch, and then you make this point like the guy that founded Uber said, I couldn't get a taxi in San Francisco. Airbnb said I couldn't get a hotel. You recently spoke with a guy from Shelf Engine, and he was seeing how much food gets wasted, literally saw the
yeah,
food.
he ran a sandwich brand.
So like, it's funny, like you have to just see the problem and then, oh, that problem needs fixing. And then that's a good idea for a company.
Yeah, it's too simple, actually. It sounds like stupid simple, but at the same time, it's like that's my lived experience. Is like it's not that complicated. A lot of people, I mean, going back to our earlier conversation, I mean, a lot of people look at this stuff and they say, how do I hack the system, or how do I look like a startup? And it's like it's not about looking like a startup. It's like actually about making a good product or service, and that's it. You build a business around that, and then if you're right, like everyone needs it and it spreads on its own. You set the world on fire.
Yeah. Well, Garry Tan, thank you so much for joining us today. Check him out on YouTube, at youtube.com/Garry Tan. You can find him on Twitter at Garry Tan. I'm Andrew Keller for Garry and Larry saying, thanks for stopping by.